Hi, I'm Morgan Hines in the PhocusWire studio, and I'm here today with Christian Watts, CEO of Magpie, and Luuc Elzinga, the founder and president of Tiqets. Welcome, we're so happy to have you, and let's get right into it. We're going to talk about one of travel's hottest topics, tours and activities, which I know you both are very expert in. So we've been hearing a lot about experiences lately. How has the sentiment around experiences evolved over the years?
Well, I think it's getting more and more attention for a reason, right? It's the reason to travel. It's the reason why people remember where they've gone. And that's why I think also in the broader travel industry, it gets its attention as it not only is a third part of travel, it's also helping the other two parts, hotels and flights, sell better. So I think it's for a reason becoming more hot than it was.
Yeah, I think it was always destined to be that. I think socials fed into it. Everyone's looking at the TikTok and the Instagram with the final experience is all you watch on the socials, and I think the hotel and the flight, definitely the airlines are looking to upsell. So they're looking for that ancillary income, as they call it, and we are that, or we're one of them for sure.
So as opposed to being that third reason for travel that you just referenced, would you say that experience is starting to become a priority in terms of why people want to travel as opposed to just a destination?
Yeah, well, I always think it was already the reason to travel, but there was a lot of uncertainty in the past about booking a flight and booking an hotel.
Yeah.
And I think those two have really become commodities, right? I will find a hotel, I will find a flight. And what we see now more is that there's uncertainty about, okay, is my tour to the Colosseum available?
Right.
So there's more, and people want to move uncertainty into certainty. So they're booking it more before and more in advance. And I think that is really a trend which is going on now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So there's been a lot of discussion about opportunity in the space. And I know that's something that you spoke to in last year in our studio, Luuc. So I'm curious to know what opportunity looks like right now. Like, there's been so much attention on the space. Has the room for opportunity and experiences shrunk at all as a result of that attention and the interest?
No, I think it has increased more and more. And we see, for example, that we're not only using our data about tours and activities to sell tours and activities, but also to deliver that to business partners, OTAs, as they use that data to already secure the bookings for hotels and then also up and cross-sell the experiences. But even that they're selling an experience first and then sell the hotel and the flight.
Got it.
So it makes sense that it gets the attention and that the opportunity gets bigger. And I think, with also the macro movement of that you want to do more stuff in general as an experience instead of having goods.
Right.
That is a great trend we're all building our companies on.
Yeah. And what about for different players, like of different sizes? Is there room for smaller players still in this growing space, or is it kind of a big player's game at this point?
Well, I was just thinking you got to differentiate in the space between distributors or tech companies and the end operator.
Yeah.
The final operator, it's tough, right? It's fragmented. It's almost the D brand. It's the anti-brand. When you travel, you want to experience something new. You don't want to go on the branded experience. So it's still quite difficult to scale. But in the distribution side, absolutely, there's opportunities for large and small companies.
Yeah.
I think we're probably going to talk about AI, but that's where the opportunity is for small companies to come in and move really fast.
Yeah, so that's actually leading me right into what I wanted to talk about next. How has AI changed the tours and activity space already, and where do you see that going? I know you both have a lot of thoughts on that, so
yeah,
please.
well, I can tell from my own experience how it involved in our business, right? And I think Christian can really tell more about the future. And for us, it's of course an enormous help in terms of operation, translations, customer service. It gets so much more and beneficial for the consumer that it helps decrease costs, but also increase the whole customer experience in general. I think those are the general things you immediately see in our businesses. But I think AI will have a much more effect. Also, the new developments in, for example, voice, so
Right.
that a guide can speak and you can have it translated immediately in your own language, which solve a huge problem in having a guide serving one or maybe two different languages, and now they can serve languages from all over the world. I think those things are moving really rapidly.
Certainly changes accessibility a lot.
Absolutely.
What do you have to add, Christian?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best applications. It's one of the most obvious and probably easy, but so valuable for walking tours or for just general interaction with guests. The live translation, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be second nature to us. I think in some ways, I mean, I talk a lot about AI, as definitely Luuc knows. In some ways, I think the final experience is the least affected by the AI. And I think about, what do you want to do when you're on vacation and you want to go to the cafe and be amongst people, go to the restaurant and have people around and people hopefully serve you, and you want to go to the beach, and these are all things which don't need AI. So for me, AI is everything that gets us to that point.
Right.
But I hope the final experience is not that much affected by AI, except for tools like the translation, which are great. But even that, I also think part of the fun of travel is the failure of translation, trying to talk to somebody in a different country and half communicating and maybe getting some food, which is not what you expected. So in a lot of ways, the over-optimization created by AI, and I'm kind of speaking against it here, takes away from the ultimate experience in some ways.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I hadn't thought of that. Do you think that could remove some level of authenticity?
Yes, but I think the AI is clever enough to put that back in.
Yeah.
And it will insert you in weird places to create new authentic, it'll create fake authentic experiences for you. Oh, you just happen to bump into this person, but the AI caused it, or...
And I guess, theoretically in reverse, because it's creating so much more opportunity, maybe that's less of a concern if it balances out that way. I don't know.
I think there's always balance. Yeah, there's always room for creating your own moment and avoiding the AI.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So as we think about trends and technology trends and AI, what are the other big trends that you see shaping the tours and activities sector right now? And what do you expect in the next year or so to be really big?
Let me throw this to you. So if you look at OTAs, the big 5 OTAs or 4 or 5, so whatever it is, what innovation has there really been in the last 10 years? If you look at, let's pick on Viator, not because we want to pick on them, but Viator now versus Viator 10 years ago or 20 years ago, how is it so different? Where's the innovation?
Well, I don't know Viator that well.
You know Viator quite well.
Well, but
let's not pick on them.
I can't speak for them, right? I think, the innovation is much more under the hood than that you see it, as a consumer. You see it because the whole customer experience is more fluent.
Right.
All the plumbing to make sure that you can be really in the moment, and you say, oh, I want to go there. And you look for it and you get it and you get a mobile ticket and you get in.
Yeah.
Right? That innovation is not really sexy, but it's so needed, I think, for the innovation that comes on top. Right? And there are innovations like packaging and all those things that help to get people more frequently into culture, right? That they can do more stuff, paying less, have a great experience. So I think there's a lot of innovation going on, but it's a lot of things under the hood.
Fair enough. So are you saying, and I think some of these people would say that as well, they fixed everything behind the scenes, and Expedia went through this process recently, right? They fixed all of their main tech stack so they can innovate. So do you think we're at that stage now where the big OTAs are going to start pushing and changing? And
no, so I think we will stay busy with it for years. And we all think sometimes it's a really homogeneous market,
right.
But it's not, right? So we were talking in a panel before about one specific Colosseum experience, but that's so different than a ticket to the Rijksmuseum. And we all try to bounce it all together, tours and activities. But I think innovation and the plumbing and all what that has to come is really difficult to put in one new innovation.
So, thinking about what you've just said about the thought of things being homogeneous, but they're really not. With the variety, let's change gears a little bit. So obviously a big topic has been Airbnb Experiences relaunch. I'm curious to know what you think that will mean for the rest of the sector on the whole, because you're saying there's so much variety. So will it really impact smaller players or different players that have been in the game for longer? What do you think about that?
I think Airbnb has always been, thinking about doing it a little bit different.
Yeah.
Host first, which I really like. And I don't know how it's going to play out, but I think, the authenticity, the connection, they will figure it out. They're smart enough. They have a huge customer base. So they have a huge host base, which is really connected to the brand. So I think we will hear more from them.
Yeah. What do you think about other players, though? Do you think that will pose a challenge to business, or is it just completely in its own lane?
I think they might know as much as Luuc knows about what they're going to do. They're going to figure it out. I don't think they figured it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've relaunched now or if they're relaunching next year, or, they shut a lot of experiences down. They opened the platform up maybe a month ago.
Right.
They're supposed to be relaunching next year. I think it's going to be more or less the same as what they're doing now. That's what I've heard. I don't know. Brian Chesky says they're going to sell some attractions, but with a twist. I don't really know what any of that means. I don't see any of that moving the dial.
Do you think that could lean into that kind of icons play that they've been making with different properties? Or is that something where if he's trying to put a twist on it, you think that means something completely different?
I think that was just marketing.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is partnerships. I know you've had a few different partnerships, including one with Luuc. How integral is that to keeping your business going, promoting your business, and creating a better system for travelers?
Yeah, for us, it's really important. I think, it also shows that when you specialize and you add value, that you can even partner up with maybe a competitor, right? We're now powering TripAdvisor on the ticketing side, which is of course also in a little bit competitive field with Viator. So I think partnerships is crucial. I think also to educate the whole market and to be able to specialize in certain segments, right? I also heard, there's also a small marketplace about fishing, which is really different marketplace where you can filter on species what you want to catch.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So I think they're all niches. We are more a niche in museums, attractions, and related tours. And so there will be special niches which will partner with OTAs, with maybe a little bit competitive companies as well. So,
that's very interesting. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, partnerships are key, right? The space is
Yeah.
too big. There's too much fragmentation for any one or few companies to take on all of it. So partnerships are crucial. I do think Gen AI changes that somewhat. You can do a lot more now with a lot fewer people than 2 years ago. So I think it does open up for a company to be really aggressive and take on a lot bigger sector than they could have done a while ago. And I think some of the bigger companies need to watch out for that.
Interesting. Okay.
in what sense?
Well, I think of Mind Trip just because I speak about them quite a bit. And I know the guys that they're taking on the whole industry, which is probably too much for a small team, but it's bold, and they've got a great product. And if you just looked at their core product today versus some other major OTAs, it's if you just landed on this planet, you might think, yeah, they're similar sized companies, similar offering. And you can do that now with a team of 10, 20 people. You could rebuild Booking.com. I understand you haven't got the distribution and everything else yet, but you can build big products now.
Got it. That's really fascinating. So as we get towards wrapping things up here, what's one challenge that with the wave of a wand you wish you could take out of the space and completely solve?
One challenge. That's
He's going to take too long, so I'll start.
You can
and
start.
You can think.
Yeah, absolutely, I can think.
It's too complicated.
Yeah.
Everything's too complicated. People like Luuc and others at Viator and ResTex have made everything too complicated and failed to standardize the simple stuff easier, simple stuff quicker. And if we'd have standardized, we're trying to standardize now, but if we'd have standardized the simple stuff, just passing bookings back and forth and checking availability, we shouldn't, as an industry, have so many people focused on checking availability. But it's a pain, and mapping, it's a big pain. And instead, we should be focusing those resources on real innovation. So instead of looking backwards at fixing and loading new products, it should be looking forwards to building the next thing. But we've made it so complicated that everyone's just fixing. Everyone's just maintaining platforms.
Do you think that hinders progress?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, thank you for the compliments, Christian. No, I think one of the main challenges is really a cultural change in the fact that people are more and more wanting to do experiences, and how to transform them into, you know, just walking on the street and give them really the best experience. So I think, you know, that there is demand, but how to fetch that in a way that we have tailored offerings for everybody, for families with small kids, or for families with, you know, young grown-ups. It's really a different audience, and how we can tailor that so that they can really have great experience, so that they will do it more frequently, and it will really benefit our industry.
So the personalization, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, in the end, you want to have the best experience for that group.
Right.
And I think we can do much better there.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure
Thank
to be
you.
here.
It was nice.